All right, everybody. My guests today are a tourism veteran and a tourism newcomer who believe passionately in the power of education to uplift travel professionals. After many years in tourism sales, in 2015, Stephen Ekstrom co-founded Learn Tourism, a nonprofit academy that offers in-depth online educational opportunities to travel professionals around the world. He's joined today by Dee Kansime, a Learn Tourism student who has now become operations manager for his team. Stephen and Dee, welcome to the podcast.
It is an absolute delight to be here.
I'm so glad to have you both. There's a lot I want to talk about. I want to hear Dee's story of going from student to professional. But first, for those of you who can't see Stephen right now, he may have the most amazing podcast backdrop I've ever seen. Stephen, tell us where you are and how you get to work in places like this every day.
So about 4.5 years ago, I sold my house and everything in it and decided I wanted to travel. What started out as a 6-month road trip in a fully decked out Sprinter van turned into now 4.5 years later in a luxury motor coach, currently parked in the Valley of Fire in Nevada. So behind me is the motor coach and these amazing red rock formations completely surrounding me. And it's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, that's stunning. I love it. Dee, you might win the prize for the guest who has joined us from furthest away from North America. Tell our audience where you are today.
Yeah, sure. I am originally from Africa, East Africa, Uganda, the beautiful Pearl of Africa. And I am delighted to be here. Thank you, Brian, for hosting us. I am a tourism nerd, I would say, just describing myself. Tourism is one of those industries that touches so many lives and people don't realize. But we don't always stop to think about the role we each play in shaping experiences. And so I am really looking forward to this conversation and sharing a bit more about the work we do at Land Tourism. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you could join us. Stephen, give us the short version of how you got involved in tourism and then how you went from, a tourism professional to really a tourism educator.
Sure. So almost 30 years ago, you would have found me wearing hiking boots, slouch socks, khaki pants, a green khaki shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and a name tag with a cartoon frog on it. I was a waiter at the Rainforest Cafe.
Oh, wow.
And they needed a sales manager. So I jumped at the opportunity to do anything but wait tables. And that was the start of my career in tourism. I remember the very first call when somebody asked me for an inclusive price, and I had no idea what they were talking about. I parlayed that into working for museums, attractions, restaurants, theater in New York City, then did consulting work with destinations, identifying product and markets that could fill gap seasons. And I love to learn. Around the same time that we founded Learn Tourism was the same time that I realized most of the education in the industry sucked. And there was an opportunity to make it better.
Yeah.
So that for me was a big aha moment. I love to learn. And when one teaches, two learn. So it's been a fantastic experience for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. Dee, tell us your story, how you got involved in tourism and how you came to work with Stephen.
Wow. That is amazing question for me that I always get. And I actually tell people it's one of my stories that I would love to tell every day and repeat it. And I enjoy it because how I got into tourism, it is magical because I never thought that I would land into this profession of tourism, but I found myself there starting from way back when I was sponsored in the university because I had financial problems, but I got sponsored and I didn't think that tourism actually exists. So it's really magical how I got when I applied to the university, they gave me tourism, which was my last option actually. And I learned to love a course and imagine it, and I just immersed in it and loved it. And how I got to work with land tourism, it's also magical because it's all about connection. And I used actually LinkedIn most of my times. And I encourage anybody out there listening to this podcast that you should use LinkedIn. It's a great tool to connect. And I connected with land tourism through LinkedIn, where I got to apply for a job and I was interviewed like anybody else. I passed through the sieve where I qualified for the job, and I'm right here. And after also taking a couple of courses that they do offer on their website. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Stephen, you made a bold statement. You said a lot of education in the tourism industry sucks, or has
Yeah,
sucked at different points in time. I don't disagree with you, but I want to give you a chance to elaborate so that people understand your heart there, and don't
sure.
think you're just curmudgeonly.
So what I found, and I was joined by Sheena Works, instructional designer, uh, organizational psychologist by trade, at an industry trade show. And we walked out of a workshop and looked at each other and say, "Are they all this bad?" And
Mm,
the answer was too many of them were.
yeah.
What we discovered that most of the education in the industry was missing were three different things. We call it the T, as in sipping tea. Transformations. You could sit through a workshop, but there was nothing that you could do with the information that you received. You were simply talked at. So you might have some knowledge, but there's no change in who you are, your behavior, or the work that you get to do because of it. The second piece that most were missing was engagement.
Mm,
Again, somebody talking at you, or that webinar that plays in the background while you go mow your lawn or make yourself coffee, or whatever floats your boat. Um, People weren't actively participating in their own learning experiences, and a huge part of learning is self-discovery. The third thing that we realized was missing from education in the tourism space, especially, was accessibility.
mm,
And accessibility to us means two different things. Number one, how do people learn? We know that there are at least 7 different learning styles, up to 12 or 15, depending on what research you look at. But if we're presenting all of our information in the same way, we're missing the boat. We're missing the audience. We're lacking in empathy
mm.
for the people we're trying to teach and educate. The other form of accessibility that we talk about is when and where people need to learn. And we are an industry that is, from the smallest destination to the largest organization, geographically diverse. People need access to education when they need it, where they are, and how they learn best. So we decided to set about changing that by working on building transformations, working on building engagement, and working on building accessibility to the industry. And we really tapped into something special. We have, educators from around the world. We have programs happening around the world. We have about 75,000 participants in our education programs and learning
Wow.
opportunities in the last year, which puts us well above and beyond the next closest tourism program in any college or university.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you tell me about the impact that education makes, especially in places around the world that maybe don't have the resources that Europe and North America have? How is it empowering the tourism community around you to make a difference?
Um, I think one thing that I would say that education is really making an impact is that it elevates how people see things. And I
Mm,
normally tell people that tourism is all about the people, the place, and I would say the culture. So when you bring into the education, when people feel attached, it's not all about having people, feeling that they are not part of what you're doing. But when you have them feel part, that is through the education part of
mm,
it. Because you may have a community that is not, maybe you're not making them feel attached to what you're doing. For example, I'll give an example of a destination. When you bring the community and feel them that they are part of what you're doing through the education. For example, what we do provide, tourism training programs. We make the community feel like it's part of everything that is going on in the community. So that amplifies everything, the tourism, the education, and also it empowers the local people, the community, the frontline staff,
yeah.
going back to everybody in the tourism sector. So, and right here, I would say in Africa, it's very lagging and people don't actually know it and they need to know about it. Hopefully this message reaches out to them. Yeah.
And I'm going to echo what Dee said in that it really is about community development and community engagement. Whether you're talking about the community at large, 1/10 of the world's economy relies on travel and tourism. That's a huge, huge asset. Or it's the small community. In Nepal, we're working on economic development projects and community development projects and helping them build infrastructure and helping them build product and helping them get it to market. In Central Africa, we did the very same thing with brick and mortar schools. We've got people who are learning to be tourism ambassadors or better finance staff or better HR managers, all because a lot of the skills that we gain in tourism are transferable skills.
Yeah.
And in my own podcast, having interviewed almost 300 CEOs in the destination space, the one thing I realize is that the tourism career path is serpentine. There is no clear, direct, start with this job, go to the next job, go to the next job, go to the next job. It is all based on skills. Learn how to deal with people, learn how to deal with managing people, learn how to deal with customers, learn how to deal with your finances and your responsibilities and legal responsibilities and whatnot. So, I think everybody in some way, shape, or form is touched by tourism.
Yeah. That's so powerful. I love that. There's this issue that I hear about more and more, especially in destinations that have a lot of tourism traffic, where the tourism community can sometimes be at odds with the local community. There's a pull and tug between how much tourism do we want? How much is it benefiting our economy? Is it benefiting people in ways that are not quite equitable or that are lopsided? I know you guys do a lot of focus on helping tourism communities tell their story and engage more with the rest of their town, their neighborhood, their city. Talk to me about why that matters, how you do it, and what kind of results you're seeing from those efforts.
Well, it matters because what's good for the local is great for the traveler, even if the reverse is not always true. And when people understand that tourism can help communities thrive, they are more empowered to be a part of the tourism community. They're more willing to accept and to be creative in solving those problems like over tourism or overcrowding or, places that are just loved too much.
Right.
So, all of that boils down to education. When the local resident understands and knows why tourism is important to them, why it's important to their community, and when the destination is aligned with stewardship principles, everybody is empowered to make a better place to live. And a good place to live is a good place to visit. You talk about how do we teach that? Well, there are simple things like teaching ambassador programs. We work with every destination to understand what they want their community to be able to do. One of the things may be able to speak to the benefits and the advantages of tourism. One of them might be to provide better service to the visitor. One might be to be a better storyteller. So instead of just saying, go to the restaurant around the corner, I can tell you, go to Matt's restaurant. That's where I take my mom for special occasions, and I think you and your mom are going to love it. One of those is a story. The other is a plain recommendation.
Right.
So when we're teaching people how to use these skills, we're teaching them why it's important. It all sort of comes together to create better visitor experiences and better visitor experiences for communities that are interested in preserving the way that people are, their culture, preserving how their community looks, the place, and preserving the prosperity of their community. And those are the three principles of sustainability that apply to, 3M and General Motors and to, Tom's river tubing. So it really all comes together in these basic principles.
Yeah, that's powerful. Dee, in your area, you may not be facing, what Rome and New York and Paris are facing in terms of massive crowds. What are the challenges that tourism leaders and tourism professionals are grappling with in the area where you live, and how are you guys addressing that through education?
I think one of the challenges that most tourism leaders here are facing is lack of exposure, I would say. And how most of them, they are really addressing these is through connections, getting to learn beyond. Now we have AI. It's really amplifying the tourism industry. It is something that I always tell people to cope up with, because AI is not here to replace our jobs. It's not taking our jobs. And managers and CEOs are really looking to employ people that are smart enough to use AI. So I always tell my fellow youths that you should be smart enough to work in the tourism industry right now. And this is something that is a challenge right here in Uganda and most of Africa. You know, everybody is like, AI is taking us. Now people are traveling actually online. So how are you going to tell someone about CP4s? They have already been there before. So it's eliminating the work of, let me say, the tour guides. That's what they're seeing. But in my own perspective, I think this is something that is great, and people just need to polish up their shoes and rub the dust off and, pick up to the generation that is here. So that's one of the best challenges. And the other one that I would say is it is about education. Our education in Africa and East Africa at large, it's a bit backward, I would say. And when you go into the lecture room, they are going to teach you things that, let me say, you're going to picture yourself doing out there after when you finish university. And it's not the case. Everything changes. When I was at the university, I thought maybe I'm going to be a tour guide or something. But I changed my mind when I got exposure. I was like, no, I don't think that is something that I would want. So I looked at myself at the bigger picture. So look at where I am. I'm the operations manager. That only gives me a smile and a 5-star. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, one of the things that Dee pointed out is how, education changes your perspective. And as an organization, I am most proud of the culture that we've built. And that is a learning culture. It is a culture where each and every single person is encouraged to learn every day. You're required to learn every day. There are two metrics for your job. One is the numbers, right? Are you crunching the numbers in whatever your specialty is? And the other is, are you learning? And Maya Angelou may have said it best when she said, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better.
Yeah.
And we are committed to being better today than we were yesterday and better tomorrow still. And I think when we empower communities with that same level of hope, that same level of access to knowledge, access to education, access to resource, everything comes together and gels, and people can thrive.
Yeah. I love that so much. I love the impact it makes on communities. I also know a lot of tourism professionals who, as you were saying, Stephen, they don't have a clearly defined way forward. If you're 29 or 33, maybe 38, and you've been in tourism 5 or 10 or 15 years, it's not always clear how your path is going to go. You may be feeling like you're ready for something new, you're ready to take on a bigger challenge, but if you're in a small company, so many hospitality and tourism companies are small. If you're in a small situation, it's family owned, there may not be advancement opportunity. You may need to do something different in order to break the wall into that next part of your career. So walk us through how somebody in that situation can leverage your educational resources to start to build the steps to their next career opportunity, and hopefully something that is more challenging and gives them an opportunity for bigger impact.
Sure. So probably 20 years ago, I was looking for new work, and somebody recommended to me a resume guide. And that resume guide focused on highlighting individual skills, their personal assets, and the change that they were making. And so much of what people think about when they think about looking for a job or building a resume is, this is what I did, this is where I work, this is the role, this is the job title, and frankly, no business wants to hire you because you had this role at another company. No business wants to hire you because you had that title on your resume. They want to hire you because of what you bring to the table. What can you do? What have you proven that you're able to do? What skills do you bring to the table? So for people that are considering a career change or a job change or breaking into the tourism market or any market, really focus on those soft skills. Can you communicate with people? Can you listen? Can you innovate? Can you improvise? Can you build something out of nothing? And can you contribute to a team? These are transferable skills. And this is what I found that those CEOs have in common. It's what I found most powerful in looking at the resumes of the people who are on our team and the people who aspire to be on our team is that ability to focus on the interchangeable skills, the transferable skills, not just the career. And I have a dear friend who has spent way too long looking for a job. And my advice to him was to step outside of the type of business and the job title and look at everything else that you bring to the table. It makes a huge difference. Perspective.
Yeah. So how do you teach those soft skills, those personality skills? Some people might think, well, either you're born with that or you're not. It's just in your personality. It sounds like you think it's learnable.
Everything is learnable. Everything can be learned. And what you have to focus on is not just learning for the sake of learning and knowledge, but learning for the sake of being able to do differently, being able to change behavior. So, I mentioned storytelling. Storytelling is a huge, huge factor of providing valuable visitor experiences. How do you teach somebody to be a storyteller? Well, it starts with the basics, right? It starts with that restaurant recommendation. It starts with, being on a tour and sharing that you yourself played on that playground. You yourself went to school there. You yourself had an office in that building. Whatever that factor is, people connect to stories. And in teaching soft skills, you have to have a few different things, and we practice this in every course that we build. You have to have information presented different ways. So yes, there might be some reading. Yes, there might be some video. There might be some audio. There might be some games. There might be some play. There might be some exercises. There might be some group discussion. There might be some peer-to-peer learning. And when you incorporate all of those things, all of those different elements, all of those different learning styles and teaching technique, people end up building the skills that change their behavior.
Yeah, that's powerful. Dee, can I put you on the spot and ask you one or two of the skills that you have learned that has been the most impactful in your career?
I think one of the most I'll say beneficial skill that I've really learned in my career is being a learner and putting learning part of me. It's part of me every day. Sometimes I always to tell people, like, you can have a lot of focus on storytelling in our industry, maybe customer experience, community engagement, or maybe destination knowledge. But this goes beyond. It's about the mindset, I would say. How do you think, or like someone who represents a place, not just someone that works in it. So that puts me back to learning as one of the skill that I've gained, I would say. Someone can say it's not a skill, but not everybody wants to learn, or not everybody is a nerd. So it's one of the best skills that I say that I've gained, actually being part of land tourism. It's a skill that I've actually immersed in me, that I have inherited, and it's part of me. We have landcations, and every employee gets two days or 3 days in the whole let me say term for you to go every year. You go and learn something new, you come back and you teach everybody what you learned. So that is one of the skill that I have really gained. And the other one is the listening skill. When you listen, you learn. When you listen, you get to polish up yourself. You actually get your mistakes. But when you don't listen, you will not learn, actually. You can actually just learn from sitting down and listening. And when someone says, okay, are we good to go? You're like, I'm good to go, without even asking any question, but just because you've learned and you've picked something. So those are the two basic skills that I've really picked up, being a nerd and also listening so much.
And I'm going to chime in on that. One of the phrases that we coined was education with empathy. Understanding what the needs are of the learner. And when you realize that every conversation you have is a learning opportunity, Brian, I'm learning about you. I'm learning about your podcast. I'm learning about your audience. I'm learning more about Dee. I'm learning right now. And when you apply empathy to creating learning experiences for people, you're reaching them how they communicate. You are listening not just to hear what they're saying, but to understand what they mean. You are speaking not to be heard, but to be understood.
Mm.
And I can't praise Dee enough for being one of our chief learners, and to see his growth since joining the Learn Tourism team, embracing new technologies, embracing new tools, new skills, new opportunities, new places to go and visit, and organizations to join, and networking to do, and people to meet. That is all part of that applying empathy to whatever it is that you do.
Yeah.
And it's a skill that for me was a learned skill.
Mm.
Somebody who knew me 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and we have somebody on our team who's known me for 28 years. Oh my gosh, I feel old. But, she'll tell you right away that the Steve that's the boss now is not the same Steve that it was 15 years ago.
Mm.
And it's because I learned empathy.
Mm.
And anything can be learned if you want to.
Yeah. Well, that's really amazing. I love that. So our audience, since you mentioned them, they are tourism nerds. You guys are in good company, because if you're not a tourism nerd, what are you doing listening to a tourism podcast? But they tend to be small tour company owners. A lot of them are solopreneurs, or they may have a team of 1 or 2 or 3 with them. Some of them are travel advisors as well. What kind of resources do you have for them in the kind of work that they're doing that could benefit them through the Learn Tourism program?
Sure. So there are over 150 classes available online and on demand for anybody anywhere in the world. They're translated into your language. They represent a variety of different learning styles and technique. Anybody can go online and sign up to take a class.
Wow.
Some are free, some have a small fee, a modest fee. 100% of the revenue that we bring in from course registration goes directly to our scholarship fund.
Mm.
So that is not a revenue center for us in the way that most might think. Another opportunity is to follow us on LinkedIn. Follow us on social media. We offer free webinars every single month on a variety of topics, led by skilled instructors, passionate professionals, and people who really do understand what it is that they do and the difference they can make.
Yeah.
The third thing that I would say is, learn by example. Be a learner.
Mm.
What can you do? You can actively seek out new information, new insights, new tools, new technique. It doesn't have to be expensive. It can be sitting down and networking with a colleague who runs a tour business somewhere else in the country.
Mm.
It could be sitting down and having a conversation about what works and what doesn't with a trade association executive, or with an editor or writer for a publication. There is an opportunity to learn everywhere you go, and it doesn't have to cost money.
Yeah. Wow. That's really powerful. Well,
That's
Stephen,
your favorite word. That's your favorite phrase, by the way.
Well,
That's really powerful.
Not every conversation is this deep. Sometimes when I'm talking to people, it's much more mundane. So,
well, if you'd like, I could be vapid for a moment. I get Botox.
There's the pull quote. There's the title of this episode.
I get Botox.
Botox.
It works. It works.
Oh man, wow. So what is the best way? You mentioned LinkedIn. If people want to browse the course catalog, learn more about getting involved, where should they go to do that?
LearnTourism.org. LearnTourism.org.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, before I let you go, we have some questions we ask every guest, and they're just for fun. So there's no pressure. You can just answer off the top of your head. Dee, I'll start with you. When you travel, do you prefer to be seated by a window or seated on the aisle?
I think I prefer to sit on a window so that I can really have the adventure most times, because I'm going to a new place and I would want to see, of course, my eyes would want to have the adventure and feel it.
Yeah, that's great. What about you, Stephen?
Window.
Yeah?
Because somebody else is going to have to pee before I do, and I don't want to have to get up to make space for them.
See, I'm the somebody else. My answer is the opposite. I drink too much Coke Zero before I get on the plane, and then I pay the price for it. So you and I would work
always
well.
always someone. And I'm like, just let me take my nap.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Dee, what's something you pack with you in your carry-on that you wouldn't go on a trip without?
One thing, I think it's my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it really helps me. Sometimes you can be somewhere and you just want to browse something, or check out restaurants, or or a good place to stay, and my laptop will only help me. So I always have it, and maybe a snack.
A
Yeah.
snack. That's a good answer. That's a
That's a
really
good
good
snack.
answer. If I had to choose between laptop and snack, there are some days where I would choose the snack.
Most days, many days.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm known for a snack accident every once in a while.
Snacks. Eating something you really shouldn't.
Exactly. Exactly. In my carry-on, there are two things you might be surprised to find. Usually I travel with my dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So I may have a dog treat or, something related to the dogs. The other item that I always travel with is my passport.
Mm.
Now, you don't always need a passport to travel, but I do because you never know where this adventure is going to lead. And I can't tell you how many times I've been somewhere and gotten a phone call and had to go somewhere else from wherever it was.
Wow.
Luckily now I get to drive most places. So it's easy to carry dog treats and dogs and snacks and all the good things. But keep your passport with you. Be willing to embrace the adventure.
Yeah, that is great advice. So, Dee, if you had a free airline pass anywhere in the world and you had a week that Stephen let you off work and you could spend that week going anywhere you wanted, where would you go?
I think I would go to Florida. It's a place I would want to go. I've mentioned this to Steve because I always tell Steve if maybe I'm given a chance to teleport right now, I would teleport to Florida just to meet Steve because he's a nice
Dee,
person to be around with.
I'm not in Florida. I'm rarely in Florida, even though I have a Florida license and I'm a Florida resident. I am all over North America, so you'd have to meet me in Nevada today.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
most of your strings are in Florida.
Oh, this is true. This is true. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Steve, this is less of a theoretical question for you because it's kind of the way you live. But wave the magic wand. If you could be anywhere next week, where would it be?
On a beach in Mexico.
Mm.
On a beach in Mexico. As a nomad, I've had the privilege to spend 3 winters traveling in Mexico. And I've woken up with 10, 15 miles of sandy beach to myself.
Wow.
Well, if you don't include the turtle sanctuary. So, to have that flexibility and freedom to wake up where you want, regardless of where it is, that's the gift.
Yeah.
That's the gift that an airline ticket gives you. That's the gift that travel gives you. To be in awe of your surroundings is a humbling experience.
Yeah.
And one that I recommend to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last question, Dee, what is something you have seen when you've been traveling that you wish you could go back and experience again with somebody you love?
I think something that I've seen, there's a place I've been to, I think Ginger, where they get padlocks and they lock, you get and you lock. So it's like you've locked your love there. So the time I got to travel there, I didn't have a partner or I didn't have someone. So I think I should go back there with someone so that we can lock our love as well. Okay, that is stupid.
No, it's beautiful.
I like that.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Stephen, last word. What about you?
A moment that I would like to share with others. I have to embrace the moment that I'm in right now. My uncle expressed to me an interest in seeing the national parks and how it's been a lifelong dream of his to explore the West and to see absolutely mesmerizing vistas and majesty of mountains that are far too grand to comprehend. And, I had the chance 3 weeks ago to say, hey, look, we're going to do the national park circuit. Do you want to join us?
Wow.
And to see a 60-something-year-old man with tears in his eyes because he is able to experience something that he hadn't before is a gift to be able to share.
Yeah, absolutely. You are certainly blessed to be able to do that. And sounds like your uncle is too. That's really, really beautiful. Stephen, Dee, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
A question for you.
Yeah.
What makes you happy?
Oh, man. These days, it is time with my kids where there are no competing priorities. My daughter, as we speak today, my daughter's turning 12, and my son is 9. And, they're in that phase of life where I can see the change towards adolescence coming. I can see the teenage years coming. And so we're holding on to every little bit of the magic of, not being a teenager yet. So when we get to go hiking, when we get to go swim on the lake, when we've been to Mexico with the kids, when we get to, go to the mountains in Atlanta or something like that, those are moments where I'm more aware than ever that they are fleeting, that it won't be this way forever, and doing my very best to hold tight and yet be open-handed at the same time.
I think that's the best gift you can give kids.
Yeah.
Is the opportunity to see their parents as they actually are, and to explore the world from their own eyes, which gives us a fresh perspective quite often. My 14-year-old niece is with me, and to say, put down your phone and look out the window.
Yeah.
For the next hour, we're going to be driving through scenery that you'll never see again, or you've never seen before. To be able to share that experience with kids, especially, it's amazing. So good for you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the encouragement. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys making some time for me in your day. And thanks so much for adding value to our tourism community today.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I wish you and your audience the absolute best.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us for this interview. I want to let you know that conversations like this are just part of what you will hear if you tune into a full episode of the Gather and Go podcast. When you listen, you'll get travel news you may not hear anywhere else, along with some really helpful road tips, some smart analysis, and maybe even a hot take from me about issues that are impacting travel right now. Now, you can hear this full episode along with many others by searching for Gather and Go in your favorite podcast player, or you can click on the link right below this video or one of the videos right here to my side. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.